Alrighty, we're going to get started today. Welcome to 1 Million Cups Chico. We're going to do a quick overview about the history of 1 Million Cups, get into our featured presentation, and then a 15-minute Q&A and some closing statements. 1 Million Cups is brought to us by the Kauffman Foundation. The Kauffman Foundation, it works with communities and entrepreneurship and education to increase opportunities that allow all people to learn, take risks, and own their successes. 1 Million Cups is a free weekly program to educate, engages, and connects local entrepreneurs. The mission of 1 Million Cups is to lower the barrier of access to education, resources, and connection for all types of new and inspiring entrepreneurs. So they started really small in 2012 in Kansas City, and now they have over 160 communities, all with about 1 to 2 presentations a week, a 6-minute presentation and a 15-minute Q&A. And we are here every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on Zoom and here at Stokel Coffee. If you would like to join our community, follow our chapter on the 1 Million Cups platform on 1millioncups.com/Chico. And today we have Gunnar from Tackling Tackle in person, who's going to be giving us a presentation. Y'all ready, Gunnar?
Of course. Let's do it. Synchronized. Yes.
This is going to be around synchronized.
There we go. Awesome. All right. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Gunnar Batchman. And I'll start by, I don't know how many of you guys are fishermen. Maybe some of you guys are really avid fishermen. Maybe some of you guys go every now and again, right? A couple of times a year. Or maybe some of you guys have only been like once or twice, right? But regardless of how often you go, I'm pretty sure you've all seen or had the experience. You know, your line goes taut, your rod starts to bend, think you feel fish, right? You start reeling, gets a little heavier, right? Like it must be a pretty big fish. Then after a few moments, you realize maybe it's not a fish, maybe it's like a rock, right? The line's snagged. That's no fun, right? Because now you can't catch anything. Your line's stuck. You got nothing. And then maybe at some point you got to cut your line, right? So you lose your lure, your hook, your line all together. And now its new home is not in your tackle box, but rather at the bottom of the ocean. Well, Tackling Tackle was built around that question. It's the first company to offer fully biodegradable fishing tackle, including lines, hooks, lures, weights, and all that other good stuff. Fully biodegradable, so it will not pollute the water systems in which the line is lost, had to be cut, or just not comes undone, right? It is long-lasting, sustainable, very durable, and will give you the same results as traditional lead-based fishing tackle. You know, fishing has stayed the same since the Old Testament, right? People still use net fishing today in boats out on choppy seas, right? I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Tackling Tackle is really the first company to take environmental developments, like environmental science developments, and combine it with fishing, right? Something that really has never been done before. So as I said, from lines to hooks to lures, weights, all this stuff, the plan is to have it all with plant-based materials, right? Whether it be dried fibers or water-soluble paints. We are going to be the first company to make fishing tackle that does not use lead, right? You guys all remember back in the 1970s when they started banning lead pencils, lead paint, all that, right? Congress passed laws, but they didn't pass laws in regards to fishing tackle. So this stuff is as primitive as the day it was really founded, right? Which is why this company is so revolutionary, at least in my opinion. As I said, these products will have the same effectiveness and results as traditional fishing tackle, right? Down to the colors and designs of the bait and the lures, meaning that you will not be sacrificing any quality or quantity of fish in any sort of fishing application. So Tackling Tackle is, like I plan on it to be a business company, right? Selling to different tackle shops, as there's a ton of them around the United States. And they'll selling directly to consumers, because that is traditionally how fishing tackle companies do it, right? Selling to customers for a certain type of fish or a certain area. And finally, this last point, very important. I want to expand based on just the regionality of fishing, right? If you guys are avid fishermen, I'm sure you guys will, have something to say on how much fishing changes from area to area, right? What catches a fish on the Sacramento River is not going to catch the same salmon up in, the Columbia River in Oregon, right? Fishing is very regional. Fish bite on different things, different times, in different places. And because of that, you need different tackle, right? A lot of companies really just make a one size fits all, right? So you're either going to be maybe like you're a hound for Shimano tuna rigs, right? And you're only because that's what they catch, that's what catches fish in your opinion. But in reality, that's just not true. Fish bite on different things for a lot of different factors. And I want to really be the first person to integrate all different kinds of tackle to catch different kinds of fish in different areas, right? And really embrace the regionality of fishing. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are focused on the health of water systems and waterways and oceans. There's obviously, you guys have seen it, right? The videos of like a sea turtle with a net around it, heartbreaking, right? Who wants to see that? No one. And so we really are fixated on ocean health. We don't want to pollute everything that we put in. We want to either take back or have it not hurt or harm anything else, right? Fishing, a lot of fishermen are very environmental forward, right? Environmental thinking people. They're very environmentally aware, but the gear that they use is not, right? And they're aware of this. But in any event, they don't have a product that can really suit their needs, right? And tackle is going to fill that void. As it says right there, recreational fishing in the last few years has grown 20%, which is a ton. A lot of new kids are entering the sport, which brings on to my next point. If you look at like the next generation, right? They're probably really the first generation that's been brought up around environmental awareness, right? I think today's kids are more environmentalists than anyone else in history really has been. And they're going to be more aware and keen to products that they use to like go fishing, right? So they're going to want products like this. They're going to be naturally inclined, I believe, towards buying these products. So finally, as you guys know, I made this slideshow a year ago, and at the time it was the first of its kind environmental biodegradable fishing tackle. That is no longer the case. The last year, there's a new company launched, obviously called BioBait. However, this company has a lot of shortcomings. First, in the fact that they only make lures and hats. They love their hats there. And they're only meant to, their tackle is only geared towards walleye and largemouth bass, right? They're company out of Boulder, Colorado, so they're only going for fish in the Rockies, meaning that they're only making tackle for lakes and streams in the Rockies. As I mentioned, regionality fishing, only for a very small part. My line of products, I want to cover lakes, streams, oceans, and rivers, along with lures, lines, hooks, and weights. Little personal story, I grew up fishing in Alaska for salmon every year, and just seeing the amount of trash that went into the ocean, I got a lot of exposure just to how much we really just didn't care about the environment, and all different kinds of fishing, right? Grew up fishing in small lakes up in the islands, fishing for humpy salmon in streams in August, obviously catching halibut in the ocean and trout in the river. And so I've seen all of that, and I know how big it is and how expansive it is and how much money there is in all of this. So moving forward, what to expect. These products, while I don't have any to show you now, I have used them and they exist in the most primitive of fashions. So really moving forward, the next step is to figure out a way to mass produce these products. Figure out a way to make your hooks, lines, lures, weights, right? Figure out your designs, where you're going to sell them, really get like more firm plan in place. And second is start to take advantage of that very large market you see on the screen, $21 billion spent every year on fishing equipment, both commercially and recreationally. Obviously that's a huge market and it's going to take a lot to take that whole thing over. And I don't really anticipate on doing that ever. But I do think with a product like this, definitely there's a lot of that market share to be taken. And finally, as you saw a few slides ago, recreational fishing in the United States has grown by 20% in the last 2 years. The average spending per angler is $1,200 in the United States. Fishing is a hobby. People spend a lot of money on hobbies, right? And when you see growth like 20%, especially among young kids, means their parents are probably into it, buying their own stuff. There's definitely a lot of things to be said for that number right there, and is why I believe we can cut into that $21 billion market. So with that, that is all I have for you guys. If you guys have any questions, I am happy to take them.
Great. Great. Do we have any questions for Gunnar?
Yeah.
Be an option, yeah.
I had a question. How often you have a fact of 1,200 anglers spend? How often do they spend that $1,200?
Annually. Yeah. And if you guys have ever looked into the price of that, you can do it when you go home or whatever. Fishing tackle is not cheap. It is very expensive. I mean, if you want a whole rod of like 100-pound test, it's going to be $100, and you'll go through that in a matter of 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are products that cost a lot of money. Like I said, it's a hobby. People spend serious money on hobbies, right?
Definitely.
This is definitely a market where people are going to spend.
Was there a specific piece of gear that you wanted to focus on, like lines?
I think
I know you wanted to go biodegradable.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily say lines. I mean, the margins on all this stuff are pretty flipping good. So whatever you make, you're going to make money on. Personally, I would say lures just because there's a lot more, you can kind of be a little more artistic with it, right? And try things out. And it's part of the hunt, right? Is picking which lure, right? Which works best at which depth, which angle, right? And it's definitely, I'd probably want to go lures. I mean, if that's what you're asking. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, no, thank you.
So if a lure that you would make.
Yeah.
And it's plant-based, it would be, how is that?
Well,
And then how does that,
coming up.
it falls into the ocean, what happens to it?
Something that dissolves.
Okay.
Right now, obviously, if you think about it, right, if it's going to dissolve in water, when you're fishing with it in water, it will dissolve,
I
right?
was like, man,
But on the flip side, we'll go and buy new things for every year, right? And if it can last 2 years, that's fine. Then every 2 years they'll go back and buy more. But it's just getting awareness and getting people to buy it in the first place. So, yeah.
How does biobait like pricing compare to like the average?
yeah, that was mine.
Biobait pricing, it's a little bit more, not significantly. Like I said, like when you're looking for like walleye and largemouth bass bait, they're not too expensive traditionally, and they're very much in that same realm. But yeah, it's not too off from what you see.
And they produce lures though?
They do just lures and no hooks, no lines, just lures.
Gotcha.
So worms and small squid.
Do you know what material they use?
Yeah.
I don't know directly what material they use. I honestly wanted to buy some. I didn't, but it looks very standard rubbery. So I'm guessing some sort of rubber compound would be my guess. That
Okay.
they throw glitter on.
I have a question. So I know you said you wanted to do business to business, but when you do business to customer, do you plan on doing it like through a store, through a website?
I mean, if you can find one like Shimano, lure store, I'll be happy to go to it, but it's just not the way people do it.
What scale do you think it has to be in order to produce it and make profit? Because obviously if you're hand to hand, you're not making much.
It's a good question. At first, not big. And I think that's partially because the margins of the stuff are so good. You can go as you want to. And a lot of people make like stuff like this on their own, kind of out of their garage and do it as a hobby, right? It's like tying your own flies for fly fishing. So you can start as small as you want. And I think that's kind of one of the cool things about it. But obviously, once you get to a point where you're selling a lot, you're going to need the machinery to go out and make the stuff. And like the machinery that companies like, or Paul or BioBait, I'm sure use. It don't cost any more than like $60,000 or $70,000. Really, at the end of the day.
So do you think that the main reason why current fishing gear companies don't use things like that is because of the cost?
Lead's so cheap, and if no one's telling you have to do it a certain way, why not? And when you look at like the bigger picture too, in the last decade, there's so many more new regulations on the fishing industry, recreationally and commercially.
You just put my mind.
Yeah, there's only going to be more, right?
Well, I
So
think
if you get in on it now,
I think they just reapproved I think there was just a court case like in the past week that reapproved the EPA's ability to regulate waterways or state maybe.
yeah,
So, or specifically enforcement of regulations. So.
yeah. So
Are they gonna have trucks too, that they're gonna go out and like
Probably not.
the people?
They have the right to regulate. doesn't
Yeah,
mean they will.
that's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm sorry I missed your presentation.
Oh, it's all right.
But if you're still serious about it, I think it's something that we should get you in front of some angels soon.
there's a lot of work to be done.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but again, I'll watch the recording. And I'll give you my critique, but
If you were to establish like an MVP, what would that
look like.
look like?
Well, I think in regards to an MVP would really just be it would probably be my final product. in the sense of, I mean, the hardest part about this whole thing is just making the
Making
product in
the
the first
product.
place, right?
Mhm.
I mean, the product, the only way it can be improved upon would just be different
And
designs,
the first
right?
product being a lure.
First product being a lure, yeah, whatever is the easiest to make. Obviously, that's what I'm gonna want to go for first and expand from there. But yeah, probably a lure, obviously, because that's what people buy the most of.
You know, Wendy at Hexas went after some SBIRs and they gave her enough money to do proof of concept. And so you need to do different proof of concepts to see which one is going to be easier, right? So it would be interesting to go after grant money. Speaking as an exhausted grant person. But, you know, I mean, then that's it's a win-win. If something doesn't work out, nobody loses.
Yeah.
Except for, you know, mom and dad, if they put some money in it, right? But you get to use that money as a proof of concept. You have to do some reporting and things like that. So, you know, you want somebody who's good at paperwork to be working with you. But
I guess sustainability gives away a lot of money to students if you're still a student next semester.
that's right.
Yeah, I just got $172,000.
Well, I better start feeling some class.
But usually speaking, like, I was lucky because they dipped into the reserves this year, but typically they give like up to $5,000 and they have a $50,000 pool. And almost always there's less than 20,000 requested. So it's very difficult if you have a good pitch to like not get the money.
Yeah, and not get the money.
So if you're still a student next semester, that might be a worthwhile.
Well, I guess everyone have to start.
No, I can go back.
Taking. Yeah.
I can take that extra elective. Actually, there's a lot of students doing that. Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are you planning to use for the weights?
For the weights, well, that's kind of the beauty of the weights, and obviously that'd probably be the easiest thing to make. Why do you, Logan? I'm sorry. But it's really just something dense.
Yeah.
It's dense you can paint gray. I mean, anything that is going to take a hook underwater, because that's what the weight is. That's
But-
right.
Might it be a good, like, I know you mentioned like business to business, might it be a good idea to like try to just focus on making biodegradable weights and then selling that to, for example, biofuel or bio, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then the other companies that want to appear more sustainable.
Well,
replace
Ooh.
costs.
Farm fisheries. Or fishery farms,
Fishery
farm
farms.
fisheries, dyslexic. But they could be using some of these things, not like as a fisher person, but just, you know, there's
Just
different,
materials.
yes, the materials.
I think like, and another thing that's, I've talked to Eva about it before, but in regards to like the line, right?
Mhm.
Once you figure out how to make the line, you can make a net.
Yep.
And once you figure out how to make a net, you can sell that to all the commercial fishermen,
Right.
fish farms, right? And that's where you start cutting into the $21 billion, right?
Right.
That's where the real money is. So really, you know, going back to the point of it, it's really just a matter of getting the product in the first place.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about nets because you didn't really have it up there.
Yeah.
but,
And that is much further.
That's part of
down
like the
road.
line. You gotta figure the line out first.
Yeah, and that's like a step on the road too.
I think the biggest question for like viability's sake is like, and I think you breezed over it, is like materials.
Yeah.
Kind of just said like biodegradable materials, but like there's a very complex industry around like
Yeah.
materials. So
And
and that really is the core of the product.
there's already, you know, enough options for it, right? You said it's, you know, a plethora of different materials you can use. So they're there. I think it's just a matter of me going out, finding, seeking, and applying. Yeah,
Going through proof of concept.
going through.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
in your experience to date, what have you seen people use? Even if they're just doing it out of the garage, what are they using? Because you've been exposed to people, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and one time I've
Probably in your presentation.
seen someone use this. It was on a dock in Elko, Alaska, and it was a crazy commercial fisherman from Canada.
They're all
from
crazy.
Very northern Michigan.
They live
And this guy brought out a rod and a hook with line and a hook that he had made with just some plants outside of his garage, and he caught Dolly Varden with it off the dock. And this guy, like I said, is a crazy man from Michigan. Okay. But it exists in that capacity. When I say I've seen it, that's what I mean. So I know it's possible. Which
How do you commercialize that? Right.
Is there any like signaling from the like main competitor that you pointed out? You said they're like very regional right now.
Yeah.
Are they looking like they might be expanding into other regions?
It might be interesting to find out why,
Yeah. I would want.
but what is the factor?
Maybe it's a lazy manager.
I think it's literally
Definitely.
it's
Maybe it's crazy guy.
I think it's just a passion driven person from Boulder, Colorado, who, thought about it and made it, right? And like I said, their
Right.
line is very, very specific to largemouth and walleye.
Mhm.
And they talk about it on their website. And there'd be no indication, at least that
That's
I
what they
can
know.
draw from it, that they would want to do that, right? Now, that's their fishing experience. Like I said, mine is, I think, a little, a little on a greater scale. And I think that's where it maybe differs and might be better than theirs. But yeah.
Might there be, if they're not trying to expand, might there be opportunity to borrow from their experience and collaborate?
Yeah, certainly, but like I said, their products are only geared towards two kinds of fish.
Well, but what I'm
If you
suggesting is you could
The
use
other
Yeah, certainly.
side of it,
with their
yeah.
expertise.
And maybe there could be some synergy to be had there, but
How about IP? How about their, do they have IP, I wonder, in place, like, do they have a patent on there? Yay, okay, more
Yeah.
research, all right.
You might have that one.
No, I just, in kind of picking up where he was going with that, that's all, that's the reason I got there. Yeah, okay, all right,
Very cool.
very cool.
Alrighty.
Big hand for Gunnar.
Okay, cool. For our closing statements, again, my name is Chanel Hamilton. I'm your host organizer. And Eva Shepherd is our chapter lead. We want to thank our community sponsors, Chico Star, GrowTech, Global Entrepreneurship Network, T-Bar, Build.com, Startup Grind, Explore Butte County, and of course, Double Coffee. Not having the upcoming events. So we will be here next Wednesday. Actually, we will not be here next Wednesday. We will actually be canceling One Way Cups next Wednesday, and we will be back the following Wednesday, so the last Wednesday in April, I believe. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out today. Hope you guys have a great day.